Here. Let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're on.
All right, good morning. We have a pretty busy agenda today, so we'll just get started. Ed's going to go ahead and give his report. Clint Boyd is here. Well, give the paleo portion, and then we have the rules, which Mark will cover, and then we have a couple orders. So we have an hour, and we'll probably take up close to 45 minutes. So without any further delay, we'll go ahead.
Before.
Yeah, that's right. Before Drew gets going on questions. All right, I'll turn it over there.
Okay, I'll just jump through my part very short. On page one, the graph on the core library usage during the third quarter, we had geologists and one oil company in, as well as archaeologists, ERCs, scientists, geologists. And then we had a professor and student from West Virginia University looking at core. All told, 3,300 feet of core was studied. We also sent out another 500 feet for study testing. We photographed just under 2,000 feet of core, generating 2,400 photographs for the subscription site, and then also photographed 4,400 feet of core through tripod, which generated 222 photographs. All told, we pulled 10,000 feet of core off the shelves. Core inventory, we started this 21 years ago and immediately stopped it because we started our core photography project, and then 2006 of the partial, they started, and so we had a whole bunch of core coming in from that, and a lot of companies come in, taking months to get into the core library. We had such a backlog. And then we had a reboxing campaign, expansion of core library. So just this last quarter, we started the inventory again. After all these years, we've gone through 20% of the core boxes, 35,000 core boxes, and found 167 mistakes that we needed to correct. And so we'll keep going on that and get that finished in the next 3, 4, maybe 5 quarters. So with that, I want to turn that over to Clint. There's
3, 4, 5 what? Quarters?
quarters.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You'll jump to page 5.
Yep. So we'll jump ahead to page 5.
Stop here for a second.
There was just a question of whether they were getting.
This is unmuted.
Okay, must have been there. Right.
So here on the back wall, we have one of the tusks from the mammoth specimen that was discovered over Memorial Day weekend in 2023 up at the Freedom Mine by Beulah, North Dakota. This has been going through a preservation and curing process for the past 10 to 11 months, and we just recently got it out of that process. It's nice and stabilized now, and we're doing the finished cleaning on it. This 7-foot long tusk, our most complete one in the state fossil collection, one of the best ones that I know of that's come from North Dakota. If you look on page 5, we've got some images. In the bottom corner is what it looked like when it first came out of the dump truck, when it was found up there at the mine. This was the first item that was discovered, and they contacted the State Historical Society and us to come up and look at that and to get the rest out. We collected a few jackets of material as well that was still in the ground, along with some fragments of bone that were in some of the spoils piles, and we've gotten to work now putting that back together. And so far, one of those elements we put back together is an entire hip, which is about 4 foot by 4 foot. We thought we had parts of like 5 or 6 different bones. It turns out it was parts of just one giant bone that's mostly going back together. So we're working on that as well. And so far we've got this beautiful tusk, we've got one hip bone, we've got one shoulder blade and some ribs, and we're working through some of the other stuff. So hopefully here in the next few months, we'll be fully done cleaning and restoring all this material, and then can start looking at where we can potentially get this on display. It's a wonderful partnership we had with the mine up there, and of course Dave Straley assisting us out on site, and actually found the rib, I think, when we were out there.
He told us he found most of this.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't find much of it. I just told people where to dig. I don't find too much. So but this has been a really great partnership that we're really excited to see the end of it coming here.
So once you're done preserving it and all of that, what does it require to display it?
So it's going to have to stay in some type of supported cradle like this. It's too heavy for its own weight. What we'll probably do is make some type of metal armature and then get it up on the wall with like an outline next to it. So you could see the relative size of the animal and then have the tusk there in place. And we could maybe get the hip bone there as well, maybe the shoulder.
But does it need like climate control or any of that or like?
Yeah, so the whole Heritage Center is climate controlled. It keeps a steady humidity and temperature because especially with this tusk, if the humidity was going up and down through the year, the moisture going in and then getting pulled out again would eventually crack and split and peel this thing apart and destroy it. So it's really important. That's why the Heritage Center is such a great facility, that it's nice and level and constant. And it does have a consolidant on the outer surface of it that helps to keep a lot of the moisture from going into it, and that'll keep it stable as well.
So if they hadn't been out there mining coal, this would have never been unearthed.
No, this was 40 something feet down from the surface. So unless you're doing some type of large scale construction project, this would have never gotten exposed in any of our lifetimes. I mean, eventually erosion might have gotten to it, but no time soon. So
So if my office hadn't sued the Biden administration to allow us to continue,
Who are responsible for this?
we have something in common.
Oh, that's great.
Like just point out it's on its side, but at the bottom of the front, you can see where it's worn, where the.
yeah, there's a really beautiful wear facet on the back edge right here. Elephants, including these woolly mammoths, they have handedness. They tend to use one side more than the other. This was clearly the side it was using more. It's got a really beautiful wear facet on it. This is about the full length in life of the tusk, which is a good medium sized tusk. It's not the largest that's ever been seen, but it is a good, nice, good sized tusk. So, but, and you're looking at it here would be kind of looking in this view at top down. So front would be this way, the animal's head would be over there. But this is a lot safer way to mount it than putting it with the curve coming up in the air, and then that's too much weight and it falls apart. So.
Incredible.
So with the hip, the rib and the tusk, how large was this animal?
So this animal is about 15 to 17 feet long. At the shoulder would be about 9 feet tall. So this is probably a Columbian mammoth. The two main types of mammoths we get are woolly mammoths, which are the more common ones, but you can get Columbian mammoths in this area. And the size of it and that kind of double curve that's going on with the tusk is more typical of a Columbian mammoth. And so as far as I know, this would be our first Columbian from North Dakota. So
Yeah, well, thanks.
if we skip back to page 2.
Doug, the question is if we could just.
Carry on.
Let's take back to page 2. Just a summary of this year's public fossil digging program. We had another successful year. We had over 500 participants in the program. Our interest in the program continues to stay high. We have over 2,700 people that are signed up for our email notification list now at this point. We did 3 digs throughout the state, our Medora site, our Bismarck site, actually south of Mandan. And then up in the Pembina Gorge at the new state park up there, continued that work. We also started a new partnership with a program called the Sternberg Science Camps, which is out of Fort Hays, Kansas. They do a lot of high school intensive program camps across the country. And so we partnered with them for the first time last year to have a group of 10 kids come up here and spend 2 weeks with us doing a really intense program. That went really well reviewed. All the kids, none of them had ever been to North Dakota before, so it was a really great experience for them. And then for the 4th year in a row, we did our teachers continuing education course out at the Bismarck site. So a good program this year. Looking ahead to next year, we're probably going to pause Medora for a year just because we need to spend some time on our Mammoth project, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And also we need to do some more repair work out at that site before we do more work. But we are going to then add back in our Dickinson site next year that we've let rest for a year. And so we'll have a little bit of change up for next year, but should be a good program. If we move to page 3, we spent in September, we returned to a site that we found last fall in 2024 down in southwest North Dakota. We were out prospecting, actually looking for some crocodile fossils, and managed to find a partial T-Rex skeleton on our last day, of course, because that's when you find stuff. And so we returned this year to explore how much of that specimen is there. So far, we've recovered about 9 or 10 bones from that. But that's just what's been on the surface so far. We haven't really gotten to dig in much to see what the rest is there. If you look at the skeletal diagram at the bottom, the bones that are in red are the few areas that we've collected and fully cleaned up. The bones that are in blue are the ones we've collected but are waiting to be cleaned in the lab. And then yellow are the bones that we've identified in the field but haven't gotten a chance to collect yet. So at this point, we're looking at about 10% of the specimen that we found before we've really even dug into the hillside to follow more of it. None of the skull yet, and that's either a positive or a negative. If you don't find skull on the surface, it means it was either never there or it's still in the ground for us to find. So that's what we're hoping for. But any T-Rex specimen that you find that's got more than 5 or 6 bones is a significant discovery because the animal is so rare. So we're really excited about this. We've got a good partnership with a couple different institutions, including a university out of the Netherlands and Oklahoma State University. So we're looking forward to working on that the next couple of years and seeing how far that specimen goes. And then on page 4.
So is that a replica sitting on your desk in your office?
On to page 4, we'll talk about our other mammoth specimen that we're working on, which is up in northwest North Dakota. The one that is partially underneath an individual's garage. We received funding last legislative session to remove the floor of that garage and collect everything that's underneath there and get the rest of that specimen out of there. This fall, rather than starting that process because we didn't want to do it right before the fall and not be able to get the garage closed up in time before winter got here, we did more excavations outside the garage to kind of confirm that it's worth taking the floor out. We did more excavations on the north side of the garage, and then we opened up a pit on the east side of the garage. And in both of those pits, we found bones on either side. So that really does confirm the bones should continue through underneath that garage. So far, we've gotten several specimens, including a really nice vertebra here. Off to you. And what's neat about that vertebra, the central part of the vertebra is a little beat up, but you can see these really weird holes that run down there. And at first I was like, I don't know, maybe that's just what mammoth vertebrae look like. And then I looked it up more, and that is actually either some type of metabolic bone disease or it's severe malnutrition. And so hints at potentially how this mammoth specimen died. It was probably very sick towards the end of its life, and either the sickness killed it or it was weak enough at that point that some predator could finish it off. So it's not very often that from just the first few bones we find at a site, we get a good hint at what the end of an animal's life was like. And so this has been a really great specimen. And there's more than just this vertebra now that show that evidence. So it's pretty clear. But this has only been documented in specimens from Europe and Asia before. This is the first one from North America that has shown this. So it's going to be not just a nice, beautiful specimen eventually coming into the state fossil collection, but actually a significant specimen that's going to teach us more about these animals. So the plan for next year is that for most of the month of June, we're going to get up there right at the beginning of the month of June, take the floor of that garage out, and then just be on site for 4 weeks straight. Get that whole 7 meters by 7 meters, about 20 feet by 20 feet garage, clear the whole thing out so that they can immediately get back in and pour that floor again and get that done so that they're not waiting on us.
How is the property owner?
What's that?
How's the property owner?
Oh, she's wonderful to work with.
Thinks it's cool.
She comes with a lawn chair and sets it up right at the edge of our dig pit and just sits there and watches. I'm like, we can't be this interesting. There's got to be something else you could be doing. But nope, she's just absolutely in love with it. And for 3 school years now, we've had the local school out there, all the grades come out. And so they've seen us go from doing the pre-survey work with the radar, looking at what could be underground, to opening up the first test pit, to seeing the main excavation. And then we'll bring them back. Again, at least the ones that we can, since we're up in school, probably out, but we'll see who we can get over there so that they can kind of see this process all the way through and understand how this all works. So it's just been a really great opportunity for us, but also for the local community as well.
She's in for a treat. I'm going to bring my own chair too.
You are welcome to show up.
Something new. Oh, that's great. She was, she found it, right? Was she, we're digging something?
It was found in 1988. The previous homeowner
I forgot.
was involved with that.
That's cool. Forgot to show this one. This was from our Bismarck dig this year. This is a fossil crocodile jaw. You can see one of the teeth is still present in it. That's about a 12 to 13 foot crocodile. Our biggest one from that site so far. So we get a lot of dinosaur bones there, but also a lot of crocodiles. It was probably next to a stream, the area where a lot of carcasses would wash in and the crocodiles would feed it along it, kind of like on the Nile nowadays. So we get a lot of croc bones mixed in with the dinosaur bones there. So. And then a final note on page 6. We've been also working with a few institutions across the state to take in what we term orphan fossil collections, just fossil collections that need a new permanent home. And so the first of those was one that we've been working with since 2015, just across the border in Moorhead at Concordia College, taking in their fossil collection. Their professor that was doing paleontology retired. There's not a plan to continue that. And so we've taken that collection in. So that is complete now. We also then were contacted last December by North Dakota State University as they shut down their geosciences department. We have taken in their rock and fossil collection at the moment just on loan because they had to get the building cleared out. And so we went in and helped them clear the building out. And then we're making an inventory of what all there was. And then they're going to make final decisions on if any of that is still needed at campus for other classes or if it will get transferred permanently to the state fossil collection. And then the final thing we're doing is a similar project with the geology department up at UND. They're not shutting their geology department down, obviously, but their fossil and rock collection takes up more than 5 rooms in the building, which is more room than they have to use for that. So right now they're going through and sorting. They're identifying what specimens are useful immediately for teaching and research, and anything that's not of immediate need up at UND is being packed up and brought down to Bismarck. And then in the future, if they need portions of that collected back, we'll just transfer that back up there. So just helping to facilitate that none of these great resources in North Dakota get lost and are available for everyone to continue to use. So that'll probably be over the next 2 to 3 years. I would say we'll slowly do that process with UND, but the NDSU move is done and the Concordia move is done at this point.
All right, okay, back to page 7, 3 quarters, 4 permits for cultivation, 6 for geothermal, 5 of those were residential, 1 commercial, and then 1 paleontological resource permit was issued for publications. All 32 of our publications are in that 3rd quarter for landslide maps. And then for our outreach, the 3rd quarter, 11 of the 14 were tours of our paleontology lab and state fossil collection. That's always a big part of our outreach. Also, one of our geologists gave a talk at a critical minerals workshop in Austin, Texas, or did a poster. And then we had 2 of our paleontologists gave a presentation or were present at the Beulah Career Fair. And talking about paleontology as a career, and also talking about how one of our paleontologists became a paleontologist to the 7th and 8th graders at Flasher. So we really like to get out there, especially if there's not, we can turn all these kids into paleontologists. I don't know where they're going to get work, but we get them into science and then they can branch out into any part of science or engineering. And that ends my quarterly report.
Yeah, they can work at a coal mine and find more fossils.
That's right. I mean, that's,
We'll get that T-Rex.
you gotta get, David's group, I mean, that took sharp eyes.
Oh, Thanks.
Yeah, no kidding. So too tough to miss that. Thank you. So cool.
All right, in September, this commission heard the draft rules for the oil and gas side, of which since that time, written in public comments and had hearings at Bismarck, Minot, Williston, and Dickinson, of which the hearing at Bismarck had a significant input from the North Petroleum Council and some minor hearings or minor comments in the Williston meeting. So I'm going to have Mark start and go through that. You've got a timeline, I think, that could be redundant as well.
Morning.
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 In your binder, you have the timetable. We're now at the November 25th Industrial Commission meeting. As Nathan said, we had 4 hearings. The comment period closed on October 31st. We did receive some written comments after the hearings. We finalized our responses to the comments. Next steps are we have to complete a couple of regulatory analysis and a small entity impact statement. We'll then submit the final rules to the Attorney General's office. Get their approval, get their opinion on the legality of the rules, and they will go to the Legislative Council and Administrative Rules Committee hearing in March some date, and the plan is to adopt the final rules on April 1st. At the hearings, we had a total of 6 commentors, either in writing or orally. So they were sparsely attended. but we did receive some significant comments. If things go according to plan, the process takes about 9 months. I always think it's like having another child. Takes 9 months to get the process. In your rule packet, you have our comments. I don't go through all of them. I'll just highlight some ones of interest. First one on page 2 is comments on 16.2, which is our revocation building permits. That was not a rule that we had published for comment. We did receive requests to they claim that the rule is silent on the standards or factors that guide the commission on discretion to suspend a permit. And they wanted some presumption percentage put in there to allow the permit to not be suspended. In this case, we disagree that the rule is silent on one of the permits suspended. It says if it's subject of a revocation hearing, the director may suspend the permit. So when we get a revocation application, we suspend the permit if operations haven't commenced pending the outcome of the hearing. The suggested rule, in our opinion, would circumvent the requirement for a hearing under 16.2. There was some miscommunication earlier in the year that probably precipitated this comment on permits that had been suspended and then were not reinstated as timely as they like, but we have had discussions with that individual and in our office and don't feel that's going to be a problem going forward. So that proposed amendment will not be considered. The next one is under 18. I just want to point out this is allows for larger drilling units for deeper horizontal wells. Council strongly supported this change, and believing it provides regulatory flexibility, and the drilling unit will still be justified through the permitting process. That's something that several operators were very excited about. On page 3, under 19 site construction, we added a requirement to require immediate reporting of unstable sites. The Petroleum Council commented they wanted clarification of what constitutes instability. Ford Energy also commented that they wanted to define what is unstable meant. The Petroleum Council suggested we added geotechnical before instability and movement sufficient to negatively impact existing future infrastructure. We thought those were good changes, and we made those changes and included them in the new rule so that the proposed rule will be amended and modified as suggested. Page 4, 22, defective casing or cementing requires verbal notification to the director that the Petroleum Council supported this change. Ford Energy thought the language is vague. And the rule states that notification is required for any well that appears to have defective casing or cementing. We do not feel that language is vague. If the operator suspects there's a problem, they need to let us know. On page 5, under 27.1, hydraulic fracture stimulation, we require notice if an unexpected pressure loss or event occurs during fracture stimulation. The Council comment, they wanted clarification of what other unexpected events are and suggest removing unexpected pressure loss and add loss of containment. Cord commented they thought the language was vague. We agree with the suggestion to add loss of containment, and we disagreed with striking unexpected pressure loss, but agree that the pressure loss should be associated with loss of containment, so that will be modified generally as suggested. We had another rule, a comment from Cord on 27.1, paragraph 2, subparagraph C, that requires a visual inspection with a photograph of the top jointed casing before the hydraulic fracture stimulations. Again, this rule was not published for comment. We believe this merits consideration, but we need more relevant information to evaluate this request. There is a waiver in the rule currently, so they can get a waiver from that if they desire. So this proposed amendment will also not be considered, but it's something we're going to look at in the future. Under 28 safety regulation, we added that the director can shut in a well if it's a serious threat to the environment. Petroleum Council requests clarification because they've got serious threat of injury to the environment is subjective. And the director already has the authority to shut in wells that pose threats to public health and safety. Petroleum Council requested the amendment be withdrawn, or alternatively recommended specific objective criteria to be established. Cord Energy believes the environment is redundant to the authority exercised by the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality. We believe the current rule is unclear whether it applies to only environmental injuries such as fire damage in the low area. This is precipitated in the devastating fires that we had out there years ago. And we point out that the commission is the primary regulator over oil and gas activity and has a field presence necessary to assist in environmental emergency. So we did not make any amendments to that proposed rule. On page 6, under 29, well lease equipment and gas gathering pipelines, we received considerable comment on this. The first item was that we required prior notification of gas pipeline installations. We already, Petroleum Council considered this an administrative burden, and the timing restraints in there were create substantial operational challenges. There was also concern about the pre-construction data being exempt from public disclosure, and that environment sensitive areas lack definition and it could result in public disclosure of information about private property. Address their first, the administrative burden part, the pipeline construction documents are already created by the operators and the companies to go out and do the construction. So we're just asking they submit them to us. We look at these, we try to identify potential hazards they could run into. And we work with operator contractors and understand there may be occasional short notice. The 1-year permit expiration aligns with other permits that the commission issues. And all information related to pipelines as far as locational data is exempt from public disclosure under the statute. So that information is not available to anybody other than the commission and the landowner. So that proposed amendment, we did not make any modifications to that. Another comment was on requiring the director to be notified if underground pipeline is tipped during construction. The Petroleum Council commented this is duplicative and potentially conflicts with its existing PSC authority. But we pointed out at the hearing and in our comments that gas gathering jurisdiction are not under PSC jurisdiction. That proposal is not modified. On 29, and I would like to point out that we already require this rule change basically mirrors what we require for produced water gathering lines and oil gathering lines. There's really no difference. In our view, if you're installing a pipeline in the ground, you have potential to hit something. It doesn't matter what pipeline is being installed for. It's you're digging in the ground. There could be dangers that we want to be aware of. We want to make operators aware of if we have information that would alert them if there are other pipelines in the area. On 29.1, which the crude oil and producing water underground gathering pipelines, rule was amended to require that just a statement when they apply for their that they're going to use a shading bucket during their construction. What a shading bucket is just basically a screen that dips out bigger rocks. Petroleum Council thought this was unnecessary since vacuum materials requires a rocks than 2 inches in diameter. What this presents, if they issue a statement to us when they're notifying us that they're gonna construct these pipelines, it informs the commission that if the operator thinks they need one or they don't think they need one. If they think they need one, well, then we need to probably be out there and look at closely to make sure that rocks are being screened out. And if they say they're not gonna use it, then we want to go out there and look at their topsoil and their subsoil windrow piles to see if there are rocks in there to alert them if that would be needed. We also added a requirement that they have to notify the director if they hit an abandoned pipeline during construction. And there's comment this may be due to ESC authority. We commented that, you know, these gas gathering pipelines are not under the jurisdiction of the commission. So those proposed amendments will not be modified. Another comment was on the requiring pipeline borings for good cause. There was a Petroleum Council made a comment that this may conflict with federal pipeline safety guidance and that good cause is vague. Again, these pipelines are not under the jurisdiction of the PSC. In our administrative code, similar good cause phrases appear in our regulations 14 times. We did make a modification though that the casing of a boring only applies to non-metallic pipelines, not to anything other than metal. Because when they install a metal pipeline in an area where they think it could be potential hazard, the pipeline is usually thicker and so that's not necessary to case it at that point. Section 31, we allow the transport of crude oil from a well site before the leaching report is filed. The Petroleum Council strongly supports this, believing it's a common sense change. So I'm going to point out some of the good comments we got too. On page 10, 48.1, this is our central tank battery rule. We removed the requirement of automatic hearing for diverse ownership commingling. Again, the Petroleum Council strongly supports this for the benefits of the industry and the commission, and it will. We received comments from Phoenix Energy. They support it, believing it's a common sense approach. And Core Energy also commented that they applaud the removal of automatic hearing. There was some concern because the regulation still allows the hearing can be required at the director's discretion. And they request immediate notice to hearing required, which we would do. And Core Energy requests clarification on circumstances that may require a hearing. And essentially, the hearing would be required if an interested party wants to submit an objection, they want to have a hearing, we would schedule that. And if they want to have a test duration less than 72 consecutive hours, it would require a hearing for the first time that technology is, or that method is approved. But the order that we issue will, if it's granted, will approve that methodology. And the order will specifically state that future applications that are very similar in nature can be administratively approved by the director. So again, that amendment will not be modified. On the next page, page 11 is continued. We clarified that diverse ownership facilities require a 17-hour test. The Petroleum Council believes the commission can retain discretion to do shorter duration tests. And in regards to that comment, the hearing for the first one will be scheduled. And then after that, barring anything, unless somebody makes a request, there would be a future hearing. This will be the first time they do this methodology. Phoenix Energy commented there are a significant number of approvals out there for less than 72 hours. They were wondering if this rule would affect those, and it would not. And if we see prior people going forward, this is not really. So again, then we modified it without. Table now, 49, our diking rule. We added oil vessels to the diking requirement. These are similar looking to a tank. They do function a little differently, and they are constructed a little differently. They are built, it was pointed out by Home Council. And just in general, I mean, they look to the average person, they look like an oil tank out there. They're big tanks, 12, 20 feet diameter, 20, 24 feet tall. A lot of them are diked anyway because they just build one dike around the facility. So we believe that the current diking requirements have greatly reduced the amount of spills that travel off site. And it's appropriate to add these oil vessels to that diking rule. And it doesn't require a specific dike around just those tanks. It can be part of a larger dike that's around all the facilities. So we believe it's appropriate to add those. There's also comments on our dike volume calculation, not related to the vessels that we added, but the current rule requires the largest tank plus 1 day's throughput, but the dike size has to be. The Petroleum Council and ConocoPhillips believe that is impractical when these Bakken wells come on. IP very high, but the commission has always exercised discretion. We don't make them build their dike for an IP that's only lasts for 30, 60, 90 days. It's what the stabilized production is. So we believe it's appropriate. Our diking rule right now, the volume calculation is appropriate. And there are a lot, there's a lot of oil moved to that system initially. And so we do take that into account. But there also are issues that happen, usually when something bad happens, something bad precipitated that, power outage, thing like that. So if that oil is still continuing to flow through those tanks, so any monitoring systems, they may or may not work if the power goes out. So I believe it's appropriate to retain what our current diking containment calculation is. Again, we believe that it's greatly reducing the amount of spills that travel off site. There. 88.1, these are good comments. We removed the central tank battery requirement for diverse ownership to have a hearing. Petroleum Council supports that. I believe it appropriately expands the director's authority. And we added the unopposed risk penalty case. But again, the Petroleum Council supported that, believing it also probably expands the director's authority without the time and expense of the hearing. And last one, hearing participants by telecommunication. We received comments from the Petroleum Council that suggested replacing telecommunication with remote communication or other reliable electronic means. Thought that was appropriate, and the rule was modified as suggested.
What wasn't it contemplating as drafted when they feel it missed?
Pardon?
What methods of communication did they feel it missed when it was drafted?
Well, it's got discretion.
People want updating.
Functionality.
So telecommunication, they thought there's an inference of telephone. So I asked, and they responded if they had any suggestions based from court proceedings, anything like that use remote communication. So that's what they came back with. There was nothing specific in any rules or policies, but it was fashioned after what the courts do. Any questions on those?
Have we had incidents with vessels that are outside of dikes?
What precipitated this was
And I'm assuming most of them are diked in now when it's
Yes.
built. I mean,
what precipitated this was when there was the dike on a particular location was being discussed. The operator challenged the diking requirement because it's not a tank. So, but it looks like a tank, it acts like a tank. They do operate a little differently, but we want to just make that clear that these large vessels need to,
When they're put on a location, what goes,
well, it also covered by SPCC.
That's what I was gonna bring up, that EPA would require.
Right.
In fact, they do around, some other vessels that we have on quarantine. So move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Trajan.
Yes.
Yes. Have two orders that we'll talk about together. Case 32279 and case 32171. One is an application by Phoenix to allow them to 4 wells on a previously established 1,280 acre species. The other application is by Continental, and they want to establish 2 stand-up 2560 acre species, 5 wells. Look at the map, the Hanson field there in the center, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, and 31 are currently stand-up 1280s with 1 well in there. 6 and 7 to the south are currently the stand-up 1,280 acre species that allows 1 horizontal well. Phoenix came in and wanted to add the ability to drill up to 4 wells on the established species. If you have a permit in there, the red dot there is a permit. We suspended that when we got these applications. We won't drill that well until we enter the decision in this case. That's what Phoenix's proposal is for the stand-up 1,280 species units. Next one. This is Continental's application for the 2 stand-up 2560s. You see in the bottom one, section 6 and 7 are contained in the bottom 2560. So they appeared in opposition to these other cases. Phoenix has no opposition to the North 2560. But Phoenix objects to the South 2560 because if that is approved, then they would be able to develop their stand-up 1,200 acre space unit east to the south. Phoenix testified as was planning to develop section 6 and 7 for more than a year. Got electrical and gas connections. They spent $300,000 on their electrical connection. They're ready to build it now. They need to develop in December 2025. They argue that Continental needs to obtain a federal permit. There's a small federal section 6 that Continental is the leaseholder on. So Continental would have to get a federal permit. Phoenix contends they would not, since they are not the leaseholders. But Continental disagrees with that assessment and believes that Phoenix also need to obtain a federal permit. You want to go into their 2560 development. Oh, okay, we're on to the next one. But Continental argues that the general future development in this area by various operators, including Phoenix, with 3 and 4 mile horizontal wells. And if the Continental's application is denied, it cannot drill 4 mile horizontal wells in the South 2560. Continental believes 1,200 acre spacing and well economics are challenging and uneconomic in this area. And that's why operators have made the transition to 3 and 4 mile horizontal wells to improve economics through operational efficiencies. Continental believes 2 and 3 mile horizontal wells are economic in the core of the basin. But they did acknowledge that Phoenix has drilled 10 2-mile horizontal wells in this area in the last few months. The longer the lateral, the cost per foot is driven down. representing capital efficiency, and it improves your every incremental mile drilled. Both operators agree that 3-mile horizontal wells are better than 2-mile horizontal wells economically, and 4-mile wells are better than 2 and 3-mile horizontal wells economically. But it's not true in this case, and I'll explain why. Because and Phoenix argues that the time value of money must be taken into consideration. They're ready to move and drill now, and Continental timeline is unknown. And Phoenix has drilled the most 4-mile horizontal wells in the state, but it's willing to develop a 2, 3, and 4-mile horizontal wells where it finds the opportunities to develop acreage that meets their economic parameters. Phoenix argues that Continental could develop those 6 sections to the north of 2 stand-up 320-acre space units, drilling 3-mile wells. Continental acknowledged that, but argues it's not the most economic development for the acreage. But Continental does operate some stand-up 1920s very close to this acreage, and they've actually drilled a well in one of them here recently. Getting on to the economic piece, which was crucial on our decision. Phoenix estimates its horizontal wells cost $6.3 million to drill and complete, have a net present value of $2.9 million and an internal rate of return of 37%. And these economics are based on the 5 wells they drilled just in south here very recently, and been on production for about 150 days. So Phoenix is 1,280 acre spacing economics work in this area. In contrast, Continental, their 4-mile horizontal wells cost $14.4 million to drill, have a net present value of roughly $2.5 million, an internal rate of 26%. So their economics are not as good as Phoenix's on the 2-mile wells. If you break it down by lateral foot, Continental's estimates is $773 per foot for a 4-mile horizontal well, while Phoenix's capital expenditure is for a 2-mile horizontal well, $630 per completed lateral foot. So we have these competing ideas. We understand that 3 and 4-mile horizontal wells are necessary in certain areas for capital efficiency in the current oil price environment. But when an operator is willing to drill horizontal wells with sufficient economics, in this case, superior economics, that results in increased oil recovery, the Commission believes the former better protects fence waste and protect relative rights. We're recommending that you grant Phoenix's application and deny Continental's.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes.
The last one order is for case 31623. This is an application by Cobalt Oil and Gas Corporation to a Pro unit, Bowles Fields, East County. It's 480 acres in size. There are 3 wells currently in the unit area. Cobra initially proposed a unit of 640 acres. But the BLM requested that the northeast quarter, section 15, you can see that's kind of crossed out there, be withdrawn due to lack of well control sufficient to substantiate the structure and reservoir present to the north. This is a federal unit. There's roughly 30% does require their approval. Cobra is proposing a 2-phase formula. If one is for primary production, one is for enhanced recovery production. The phase 1 generally tries to mimic what the areas, what are primary conditions. The phase 2 formula is what will happen under secondary recovery operations. We believe both formulas are protective of relative rights, and there were no objections to the application. So we're recommending approval of the.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Loving?
Yes.
Last. The Holy Stupor unit has not been, we have not received the necessary ratifications yet. And we're looking for a motion to grant either Nathan or I the authority to approve that order once we get the requisite ratification.
The draft motions behind tab 6.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Loving?
Yes. Got a hearing schedule we got to approve?
Oh, yes. Behind tab 7.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Attorney General?
Yes.
Loving?
Yes.
The only. That's it for me. I know it was almost as exciting as Clint.
Yeah, bring some faucets.
No, but the 4 mile to mile, I mean, not the last we're gonna see it.
So,
No, there's unique challenges out there.
the other,
I actually agree with Phoenix on time value of money. It's like, it matters. When can you drop?
just a couple points of other business. I won't cover the top part here, but, under the, deputy director, the posting is closed. We've received 17 applicants and the process is underway, to get those interviews set. We hope to hire for
I've
this.
had a better week this week. You can take mine out.
Okay. Geological survey has undergone quite a bit of work related to critical minerals rulemaking, kind of a first of its kind in the United States per se. So those draft rules will be coming to the commission next month. And then we have the last bullet point, I think is important to note. We have succession plans going on for several critical roles.
We should spend some time with critical minerals next month. Like, it'd be nice to have them in advance so,
Prior to,
so we can ask hopefully some smart questions and I assume some dumb questions as well, but
yeah,
it is new and eventually.
Yeah.
Whatever we do. It would
I agree.
be worthwhile to spend some time with it.
There'll be a couple swings at it.
Yeah.
We probably don't get it exactly right on the first time. We've been working with David Garner on it. Ed's been working with numerous groups on that. We'll bring that to you ahead of time next month. Thank you.
Smells.
Hi, Justin.
Morning.
Wow, we don't have one. Absolutely.
I'll sit a little closer so I can advance some slides. Well, good morning, commissioners. So morning, we've got a few items on the agenda. We're going to breeze through two of them fairly quickly. The first is the submission officially of the annual report. That is in your binder. We're not going to, it's uploaded online. All stakeholders can find that available. It's handy, but I would still say if people are genuinely curious about understanding the infrastructure, presentations, videos, or podcasts, those things probably are a little bit more in depth even in that, or just reach out with a phone call or email. I'm happy to dive in, but there are some good maps and references in there that are available online as well. So moving forward, then that annual report ended this past summer. It seems like a lifetime ago in the industry and how quickly things are moving. And so I know we've been very much business level. The last number of times I've been before the commission, working through a natural gas pipeline situation that I thought it'd be good to step back and we'll take a peek at what's happening on the crude oil side of the business. and then transition into some additional natural gas discussion. So unless there's any questions on the annual reports, we'll get into that slide deck as well.
Which is the slide that's behind Ted now.
Anybody have any questions on the annual report? All right, you're good.
So just to quickly level set on the activity that we're seeing in the basin, hovering right around 32 drilling rigs as of late. When we look at, whether or not that should be considered reasonable with what expectations would be given current oil price environment, I would say yes. We're still in that trend. Looking at the right-hand side of this axis, how many active drilling rigs in North Dakota relative to WTI oil price? WTI right around upper 50s today. So that rig count that we're seeing very much in line with what the industry has established as kind of a post-COVID activity normal level that we've been locked into now for several years. The one thing that has surprised me has been the continued efficiency gains in the drilling activity. That's that green line there. I would have thought that with the transition to longer laterals that we would have seen more of a plateau or maybe even a pullback in how efficient operators are at drilling rigs. That the data is saying that is not the case. So that green line and how many new wells per month per rig, that metric continues to surprise me, and how well operators are doing at getting those wells. So we're right around 2.2 wells per rig per month. So even with a third of those wells being longer laterals at this point. On the crude oil infrastructure piece, this is again one that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, just given the pressing issues that we've got on natural gas. But just where the industry is at today, we are continuing to see a dominant amount of North Dakota's oil moving out on our traditional crude oil pipeline network. That is, when we back up a slide, the Enbridge North Dakota system that goes east, that is the red system. And then we have a series of pipes that are operating in western North Dakota, eastern Montana, going down to Guernsey, Wyoming. Then we have the Dakota Access Pipeline coming across down to the Wood River Patoka marketplace and then down to the Gulf Coast. And then last but not least, our single refinery in the state, which still accounts for, give or take, upper single digits to 10% of the oil going to that refinery. Rail, when we look at that, that is a piece that capacity wise, we today have enough pipe capacity. We can move every barrel out on a pipeline system desired. But we're still seeing about 2.5 trains a day leaving loaded. I'll call that electively, just given the marketplace where they're trying to reach destinations that they can't reach on that pipeline system. And so there's still half a dozen or so locations loading crude oil. These are, if you recall back years ago, we had close to 20 facilities loading crude oil. So it's consolidated to only the largest, typically unit train type facilities still operating, and just given the efficiencies they can gain there. So long term, I don't see anything on the horizon that's going to change this metric. I think we should continue to expect rail to play an important piece in that crude oil movement long term as they continue to head here, particularly to the Pacific Northwest. And so this is by destination of where those barrels are headed. It's almost exclusively over to the Washington state refineries that have a strong appetite for that Bakken barrel. And those refiners are continuing to signal that is a long-term relationship. That's an expectation for us here.
The percentage, those 2 unit trains, whatever you were saying a day. So the average percentage of oil moving out through pipelines every day is.
It is close to being this slide, that blue line on the left, so right around 80%.
Okay. Yep. All right. Let me show you. Interesting.
And then as we look forward to that question about is our pipeline capacity continuing to be adequate? That answer with how the systems are configured today, that answer continues to be yes. So I've got, again, my base and my low case production outlooks to kind of use as a metric long term. There are things going on that I'll talk about here in a moment, with Canadian dynamics and some increasing production in Canada. We'll keep a close eye on this and whether or not there will be any modifications long term to that. When we look at pricing, this has not been a favorable story relative to what we've seen in early 2020. That is, that 2022-2023 timeframe, we had very strong crude oil pricing for North Dakota barrels, some of the strongest we had seen to date. $2 to $3 discounts to WTI oil pricing. 2024, there were some delays and some congestion occurring with our Canadian counterparts. North Dakota, if you remember that system going towards Illinois, going to the Great Lakes area, that is the same marketplace that those Canadian barrels go. And so when there's congestion and depressed pricing up in Canada, that trickles back to North Dakota, and that's the world we're living in today. Those Canadian systems are largely operating full, congested. Refinery runs, demand in the Midwest haven't been stellar, and so we're seeing that trickle back here in North Dakota as a result. Some things that have been discussed as of late, there have been some announcements by Enbridge. Enbridge is a North American-wide company. They operate a 3 million barrel per day pipe that just touches North Dakota as it goes towards the Great Lakes. Some expansion work coming in 2027 for that. So more barrels into the Midwest, some further expansion options that they're floating out in that 2028 timeframe, which is going to continue to put pressure on Midwest refineries or pricing in the Midwest as those refineries have more options for where they're going to procure their barrels. So I wish I had better news on the pricing front that we could expect to return to these, very, very favorable prices, but the marketplace today, at least for the near term, I'm expecting this to be a little bit of a status quo in this at a $7 discount range for now, and going forward, we'll see as that expansion work gets completed. At a national and global level, this is the latest from the EIA. I know this has been covered in some of the local media here in the last couple of days, taking a look at what they are projecting for oil prices. So that upper left-hand graphic, that is their short-term energy outlook. They're expecting a really bearish trend here over the next 12 to 18 months, with prices dipping into the upper 40s before settling into the low 50s by the end of next year. The reason that they're taking that position is what they're laying out in that bottom right-hand corner, just a world oversupply of production. We've seen voluntary curtailments at OPEC be pulled off, just volumes across the board, very, very high in demand, still growing, but just not at the same pace that we've seen very, very strong production levels globally. As we take a look at North Dakota's oil production here in the near term, one thing I always look at, and I really love that the DMR team and Nathan and the folks put out a number. These slides were submitted into your binders prior to our press conference this past Friday. So one of the metrics is that frac crew count in blue. Unfortunately, the latest number provided by DMR is that we're down at 10 frac crews operating in the state. So that could be one of two things. It might be just a near-term blip, that there's some crews changing out, moving. It might be in eastern Montana. We'll see if this is a continued trend. But that is one thing that certainly the commission should be aware of as we look forward. Oil production, my number that I would throw out as a good rule of thumb is 13 was kind of my minimum frac crew count to stabilize oil production. Anything less than 13, we were finding ourselves in a position where we couldn't bring on enough new wells for to maintain production. We would start seeing some slide. So if that 10 number continued, we should certainly be having those types of conversations about what that looks like production wise. But again, 1 month is 1 month. See if that is sustained. So with that, that's it for the crude oil piece, and then I can transition to some natural gas. See if there are any questions on the oil side. But natural gas, this is again something we've talked about at length now. Transmission piece, gonna fast forward to some new material for the commission. When we look at Northern Border, so now I'm on slide 25, which would be page 13 on your slide deck. Again, those dynamics, we just went through a period of high maintenance and construction work on Northern Border throughout much of September, half of October. That put definite pressure on the marketplace and all the traders that there were some days where pricing was negative, and that was, again, some kind of a market situation where there was oversupply and competition with Canadian molecules. Largely got through that period of construction. North Dakota's oil production, as we saw in September, wasn't largely influenced. We saw a small uptick in flaring during that time, but North Dakota producers fared as well as they could. So market share, Northern Border, 80 to 90% of that flow now has continued to march upwards. That is North Dakota natural gas in that system. Should note in September, North Dakota hit a new record level for natural gas production, a new record for gas oil ratio. So all those trends that we've been anticipating are continuing to play out here in the marketplace. Summer for us went very well. And that was largely, we had some tailwinds that I lay out here. During the summertime, we weren't seeing the congestion levels that maybe we otherwise would have because of storage injections taking place. Basin Electric brought on their new natural gas fired power gen. That took a good bite out of some of the gas available in the region. And then our midstream companies on the gas processing continue to be very aggressive on ethane capture, putting that ethane into the natural gas liquids pipes versus into the residue stream, which would add additional complications to our transmission system. This project that we've talked about in the past, the Bakken Express, this is why a large bit of that construction was taking place in September and October. They were working on their compressor station upgrades. Everything now is continuing on track for a Q1 in service of next year. So we'll have some incremental pipe capacity out of North Dakota that's going to be well needed and timely, just given where production levels are today. And one of the last things I want to touch on, I know we've been talking at length here over the last 9 months or so about the Bakken East project. That is the one you see in yellow on the bottom half of this graphic, but I thought it'd be important to highlight a couple of additional pipe systems and then another project that's being proposed or an expansion over in Grand Forks. So the two projects that you see up in yellow, one from Tioga, North Dakota to Minot, that is a WBI project, what they're calling their Minot Industrial Pipeline. 20-inch pipe, 87 miles. Big anchor project there is the North American Iron, that steel processing facility. And then to the west of that, that is a system they're calling their Line Section 32 expansion. That is a natural gas system over to gas-fired generation. So both of these projects are WBI projects on top of the Bakken East. So I know we've got some WBI folks here in the room with us. They've got their hands full with a number of large-scale projects influencing the region. And then lastly, I'll comment over in Grand Forks, the Viking pipeline. They've launched a small open season for incremental 15 million cubic feet per day of natural gas service. They're going to potentially offer some looping of their pipe in Minnesota to bring more natural gas into that Grand Forks community. So a very, very positive situation playing out with gas projects across all of North Dakota.
So, are they just putting in a bigger pipe? What's their?
For the Grand Forks, looking at, looping to second along the primary.
They don't have to go very far.
No, it's very, very short. It's from that main line over to Grand Forks.
So there was a bigger pipe that was put into East Grand Forks. Is it a matter of hooking up to that and increasing volume also?
As far as getting across the Red River?
Yeah.
Yes, so there would be new pipe.
From the
various
Red
phases.
River over, okay.
Yeah. And so that open season wraps up as December 5th, barring any type of extension that potentially could be offered.
How are they going across the river there? Do they bury it? Or do they go on a bridge or what do they do?
it gets horizontally bored, yeah, buried.
How far below the bed do they have to go?
That I don't know in that case. Yeah, that'd be a water commission federal, but it's.
But it's already
substantial.
a ground court.
Yes.
They're going next to existing.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do the outlaw Josie Wales ferry.
And I'll double check the logistics there.
It's on one way. and that's put up and sun's the
If
other
new
way.
pipe is needed under the river, or if they can use existing pipe, or how they're gonna handle that. Certainly.
Thought there was some pressure limitations.
Maybe why they want to do the pipe. Second one. Yeah.
The Bakken East project, this couple slides I took from the WBI team here. You can see some of the upgraded metrics about the success they're having, gaining access for permission to survey now on their mainline system, almost 100%. And so that I think for the season, a lot of the cultural wetland habitat surveys that you see on the bottom half of this graphic that have already been completed, I think that work is now done for the season. They wrapped up 7 landowner meetings here over the last several weeks. I was able to attend one of those, very well attended. I learned, if you would have thought I knew a lot going in there, I learned a tremendous amount of additional information talking to their staff and people, boots on the ground out in the field, what they're seeing and hearing.
I should probably know this, but so the 98%, 95%, 53%, is that miles or landowners?
Parcels.
Those parcels.
And then an updated timeline for the project. So we are looking at for pre-filing here, yet this quarter, finding open season, first part of next year. And then the big thing is that proposed FERC 7C application Q3 of 2026. That's the timeline there. And then no changes to any of the in-service dates or timelines that you would have seen at previous meetings. So with that, I think I'll stop here. If there are any additional questions, I know we're going to go into executive session just for preliminary. For anyone that's curious about, it's just preliminary. Take a look at some framework regarding precedent agreement on the project.
I think I can fund it because Ellen just texted me and I have updated lines of credit for my business for 2 years, so. Do something about that, Attorney General.
I get 10 or 12 calls a day and I've handed my phone over to my CPAT director in the middle of a meeting and said, it's unreal. We can't stop it. Did anybody call you?
Constantly.
Yeah.
I get more.
That one
texts
sounds
than
very
I
nice.
got.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in trouble with the guy. I own mine. I own 55,000. We're gonna settle it, I think, because that's.
I hope so, because they keep telling me I need to call for refunds.
Cash cards.
Yeah.
We have one item before we go into executive session. The Oil and Gas Research Fund is the funding mechanism for Pipeline Authority. We haven't done a transfer since the fourth quarter of 2022. So I am recommending transfer of $600,000 from the Oil and Gas Research Fund to the Pipeline Authority Administrative Fund.
No more.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes.
It's time for this. Where I move that under the authority of the North Dakota Century Code, sections 6-9-35, 44-04-18.4, 44-04, 17.2, 54-17.7 through 12, and 54-63.16. The Industrial Commission entered into an executive session for the purpose of Pipeline Authority confidential business and Bank of North Dakota confidential business.
Second.
Roll call.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor, or Commissioner,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. The commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to NDCC 4404-18.4, 4404-19.2, and 54-17.7-12 to discuss those items listed on the agenda under Pipeline Authority confidential business. Only commission members, their staff, commission staff, the pipeline authority executive director, representatives from WBI Energy, Department of Mineral Resources, and Bank of North Dakota staff will participate in this session. Following the pipeline authority executive session, the commission is meeting in executive session pursuant to NDCC 0935, 4404, 18.4, 4404, 19.2, and 5463.16. Consider those items listed on the agenda under Bank of North Dakota confidential business. Only commission members, their staff, commission staff, and Bank of North Dakota staff participate in this portion of the executive session. Any formal action taken by the commission will occur after it reconvenes in open session. Remind the commission members and those present in the executive session that the discussion must be limited to the announced purpose. The executive session is anticipated to last approximately 45 minutes and will begin at 10:22 a.m.
Nick, you're hearing.
Pipeline Authority executive session. Things was discussed, no action was taken. During the Bank of North Dakota executive session, the confidential agenda items were discussed and a motion was made to approve a resolution. What are the committee's wishes?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor,
Yes. You're back up, Don.
All right, I will take us through the non-confidential CO update report. There is some references in here to the SMART plan and also to the performance highlights. I'll wait to jump to those. I'll get fully through the CO update report, so I'm not jumping you around in your packet. And then we'll hit those two items after I get through my CO update. So as we move into Traction EOS, we will be incorporating more and more in our monthly and quarterly reporting to Industrial Commission, the traction tools and concepts that we're utilizing. If you remember last month, we shared with you the new Vision Traction Organizer, which laid out our strategic plan. These are our fourth quarter rocks that are moving us towards accomplishment of that 4 and 10-year strategic pathway. First one, Rough Rider Point business use case. We spoke about this in executive. That is in process. We'll look to deliver that by first quarter 2026. We are working on that right now in fourth quarter 2025. The 2026 Farm Financial Stability Program, we will be seeking approval on that later on in the agenda today. We did go live with Commercial Center. This was a significant enhancement to our online banking systems and protocols, a Fiserv product that we put in place for our state agencies and for our financial institutions interacting with us with their deposits, a significant investment in the robustness of those services offered. As a part of Traction, we are making some structural changes within the bank, moving some departments around to better fulfill on our strategies. That's in process. We have rolled out this concept of rocks, a level down in the organization, and we're working on the 2026 budget. We'll be bringing that 2026 budget, I believe, in December, Rob?
Here in January.
Here in January. Yep. Okay. Thank you. So that's update on our company rocks. From the standpoint of Rough Rider Coin, in addition to what we spoke about in the executive session, it is moving along nicely. We've been doing a lot of press and a lot of interviews around it. We're working with Fiserv and partners to build out the business use case. Those negotiations are going well, and I would say Rough Rider Coin building out that transaction framework for North Dakota Bank is progressing as we have expected. Moving on to the second page, I'll jump into enterprise risk management. If you remember at the beginning or the end of 2024, we did significant work to develop the new capital plan, capital policy, and at the same time, we evolved our robustness of our holistic enterprise risk management. So that evolution now leads to this quarterly scorecard, which you can see, which gives you an idea of what is the entire risk picture of the bank. Good news is you can see it is staying holistically completely in the green. So it's really, really good news. There are some things within over on the far right, you can see the risk trend. We've got 3 buckets where the risk trend is increasing. Now we're still within the green overall, but we are increasing in these areas. The first is strategic risk. And as you would expect, as we step off into Traction EOS, as we step off into Rough Rider Point, into FinTech, into talent management and evolution of a lot of things in our strategic pathway, anytime you step off and make a shift, you're going to have an increase in strategic risk. So that's a big part of it. Another big part, though, is we do have a high-risk category of key critical positions without identified successors in the bank. That is flashing red in that category, which is also leading to the increased strategic risk. Good example of this, we just lost a mission-critical person who has been critical not only to our loan operations, but also to standing up the 5 disaster programs that we had this year. That's a big loss for us. She cited burnout and death by 1,000 cuts over time. And so we are looking at that risk holistically through the bank and seeing what other mission critical positions we might have at that point. And we'll be bringing back information on that to try to get ahead of that risk. Credit risk is increasing. I'll move down into the credit quality section. And I'll say this, it is increasing, but it is increasing per our expectations, as we've talked about for the last months. And it would appear, don't want to be too Pollyannish, but it would appear like we've seen our first wave of kind of downgrades and credit quality deterioration. We're not yet seeing a big second wave of credit quality deterioration come our way, which is good news. Now we are entering agriculture season. We do have a big ability program that we're looking at. So again, not to be Pollyannish, but our expectation all along has been we're going to see deterioration, kind of slight deterioration, but it's going to be very manageable. That is proving to be true so far. Even more importantly, what do we continue to do about it? We have both benefited and somewhat intentionally slowed our loan asset growth to a certain extent into new balanced decision trees and balanced credit culture. That seems to be working. We're addressing micro trends that we come across. We're assuring adequate special asset staff, which is critical to working through during heightened times of credit quality. We're conducting frequent capital stress tests. I'll go over one of those later, and really staying hooked with our lead FIs, which is critical to managing through more distressed time frame.
How are you making these projections? You're going through in the bean price. One day I run into Goring on the sidewalk. He tells me bean prices are done and we should all sell everything we have. And then a week later, everything changes. We use China. And these are really, it's just material change all the time.
Yeah, it's very volatile.
You're just constantly updating and upgrading and.
Yeah, we're consistently month over month running forecasts. We are. Keep in mind, we have access to tremendous data, not only macro level economic data, but we have access to all the lending portfolios and nearly all the banks, credit unions in the state.
Yeah.
And we get to see how those credits, both historically, presently, and it gives us a better idea to forecast how those credits are going to react and act. Yeah.
Seems like a challenging time for sure.
Very challenging. What we've said to that point is in a volatile time, you want to stay in the fairway as much as you can. So that's kind of where our mindsets are at and where our strategies are at, is really trying to stay in the fairway of balance, not overextend, not reach for the stars, just pretty much stay balanced. So you can see the charts of what I described around credit quality. See the slight deterioration in classifieds, watch list, special mention, non-performing loans. But also in the tail end on the right side, you can see some leveling off, and that's that first wave. We're not yet seeing a second wave, so it looks like our forecast is holding pretty true, but we will continue to forecast very robustly around this to try to stay as far ahead of us as we can. Most of the credit quality deterioration is coming from the agricultural portfolio, and I would say pockets of commercial real estate, just pockets. Does not look like it's systemic in commercial or commercial real estate. It is fairly systemic in agriculture. If you think about large inflation compounded, those prices went up, and even with inflation slowed, everything still costs more. Commodity price drops and volatility, interest rates staying high. Agriculture is a pretty highly leveraged industry overall. And so interest rates do matter. And so the length of interest rates staying high. So it's really kind of a perfect storm. Last in the section of the CO update is liquidity, or not last, I guess I have the dashboard as well. The next section is liquidity. In our stack ranking of our mission, we've been more and more clear that we're first and foremost risk managers, then liquidity providers, then growth catalysts, and then we generate a nice total profit. Liquidity is second in our mission stack, so I'm always going to be talking about liquidity with you. We're managing liquidity still hovering around that 75% targeted range. You can see as we get closer to 90, that's kind of a puke point for us. But we do look like we're still in the green in terms of liquidity. And then finally, on the last page of the SUA update, I have the disaster programs dashboard. Now this is for the ratio storms in June, the addition of the storms in August, and then the furloughed federal employee paycheck program. You can see we ended up about 4 million and all in disaster storm, disaster ag loan balances out. I would think we consider that a very successful program, getting it to help agricultural storage. You can see the furloughed federal employee program. Again, this was a first of its kind for us. And we really do appreciate the key banks that worked with us because it was our first time doing kind of a direct consumer rather than a business or agriculture. And so those more consumer-minded banks were really, really helpful for us to figure out the disclosures and all the nuances of that. We did about 127 loans for the tune of about 1.6 million. Fairly spread out across the state, but you can see there centering in Ward County, Cass County, Burleigh County, Morton, and Ramsey, and then kind of spread out from there. So I would say successful program as well. And we were glad it was a little less likely used, and the federal government found a way to reopen when they did, so that we could work through the nuances of a new program. So now we have that.
Also, they figured out a way to pay their soldiers.
Exactly.
That's
That was the big point.
the big thing that we didn't know. Whether or not.
But cash. Lovely. Okay, I said I would come back to the smart plan update and to the performance highlights for the third quarter. So we'll go into the smart plan update next. Not
That's
sure what-
fine. We have 16A.
If you remember, we rolled out and got approval to roll out the smart plan retention and recruitment plan for this operating year. What we said is it will be transparent. It will we'll report quarterly on it to you, not also to you, but also to all of our staff. It will promote one team. It will be a true retention and recruitment bonus plan where it's paid out over 3 years in bank to help retain key talent. And it will be tied directly to our strategies and our financial performance. We will all share in the upside and the downside on it. If you jump to page 5 of 7 on the smart plan, this is really the dashboard. The first few pages of it really just lay out how we're measuring it, what the buckets are, how they weight in. And you can see we're measuring it holistically, kind of like our enterprise risk management system. We're measuring on credit quality, ERM, financial performance, mission, and strategy. If you go to that middle table, you can see the stars. That's the easiest way to see where we're at. We were running about a 15.3% payout range for all employees at Bank of North Dakota. We did drop to 14.21 in the third quarter. And you can see the stars, the credit quality indicator moved far to the left into the minimum category. No surprise there as we see credit quality deteriorate with those key ratios. That is reducing performance. And so we're all sharing in that downside risk. Enterprise risk management, which I went over, is in this. The dashboard shows it's still in green. We're right on target. Our financial performance is very, very strong this year, both from a balance sheet and income statement standpoint. I'll go over that when I get to performance highlights here in just a bit. It is moved into the max categories based on the strength of where we're coming in at. And then our mission and strategy is really our subjective piece of this. Right now, we're just holding that at target. At the end of the year, we'll adjust based on how we're accomplishing our mission and strategy. I would say right now, preliminarily, the bank has done a fantastic job of transitioning to traction, farm disaster program, moving into fintech. So that also could move more up into the max range, but we will determine that and seek your approval on that at the end of the year. But overall, I did want to point out this is transparent. It's for all of our staff. It's very measured and balanced, tied directly to our strategies. And we do share in the downside risk. And I think this shows that if credit quality deteriorates, it moves down the incentive potential for all staff at the same time. So, in other words, I think the SMART goal is living up to the key mission metrics that we assigned to it when we rolled it out, got your approval for it. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on to performance highlights. And
I'm 16B.
there's a lot in here. I'm just gonna really just kind of tell you the story. I know we're pressed for time. Our balance sheet and assets continue to level off. And I think that's part of how we brought in a more balanced strategic approach. We're not seeking necessarily double-digit balance sheet growth. One, when we look at funding, and two, when we look at capital ratios, and three, when we look at the strategic shift we're making at the bank. The risk profile is better if we lean into lesser asset growth overall for the time being. So we're seeing that. We're also seeing our loan portfolio growth slow down to a certain extent, although we're still originating and renewing, over $1 billion a year, but the new originations are slowing to the point where we're seeing some overall slowdown. We're still growing the loan portfolio, but it is at a slower pace. You can see our deposits year over year are shrinking slightly. Our deposit forecast, you heard Justin Krinkstead's presentation and forecast around both price, oil production, oil tax revenue, all of the things. We continue to look at have a flat to shrinking deposit base overall, but overall very, very strong. We continue to grow capital. You can see year over year, we're up 1.2 million up to 1.3.5 million in terms of capital. So very, very good balance sheet. In terms of the income statement on page 2, we're seeing nice increases in interest income. Part of that is the longer we stay in this higher interest rate environment, we continue to reprice our assets on balance sheet at higher yields, both in the securities and the loan portfolio. So we're benefiting from that. We are putting quite a bit more away into provision for credit loss. You can see last year we were at 8 million. We budgeted 9. We're all the way up to 15 million. We did take, if you remember, the bond swap loss earlier this year to the tune of 17 million. Our original forecast that was in October, we would break even and then start making more money on that securities portfolio after October. That happened in October. So our forecast proved right there. All in, managing operating costs very well as well. So we're up over budget by about 3 million for the year and up over last year by about 5 million in terms of reported net income. Leverage, capital, everything else in here looks good. We talked about credit quality, so I would just stand for questions on these performance highlights.
Any questions?
No. Right. Okay. Now I think we're moving into the approval sought for the 2026 Smart Financial Stability Program and the 2026 Crane Inventory Loan Program. So I'm going to set the stage and turn over to Kaylin. What I really like about these two programs is we never like to recreate a wheel if we don't have to. We like what has worked before. If you go back to 2016 was the last time we did kind of a comprehensive farm financial stability program. I was in the private community banking space at the time. And from my perspective and the executive's perspective at BNB, that program worked really, really well. We believe we're in a similar situation, albeit probably more severe than it was back in 2016 with, like I mentioned, the compounded inflation, the volatility and drop kind of across the board in commodity prices, the geopolitical issues around the world that affect exports, which is incredibly important to agriculture, as well as the sustained high interest rate environment. All things are continue to put pressure on our agricultural portfolio. So working from there, our team came up with a great couple programs, and I would turn it over to Kaylin to kind of walk through the specifics of the programs.
So we'll start with the Farm Financial Stability Program. And I should say collectively as a whole for both programs, I'd say our banker team takes a lot of pride in coming up with a program that truly delivers and meets the mission that's out there. We take a lot of time focusing on with different groups and banks to seek their feedback to make sure we're hitting the needs that are out there. So for Farm Financial Stability, there'll be up to $300 million for this program. And of course, it's going to come with below market interest rate and extended terms as we've done in the past. As Don mentioned, say truly a need for stability as opposed to a true disaster. One thing occurred, okay, they need a reset. I think we've had a few years of different issues that have come into play. In addition to looking forward to 2020, a lot of unknowns out there. So you'll see a couple of factors in the program that are intended to support. So of course, intended to serve the producers whose primary occupation is mining and ranching. They have to show a loss in 2024 and 2025 or have a 2024 disaster program that we did last year on the books, which would include producers who had losses in 2023 and 24. As Don mentioned too, it'll be an avenue for them to restructure their entire balance sheet. So it's not just taking over, their identified loss from a prior year. It's restructuring their entire balance sheet and trying to provide that stability going forward for the next 5 years. Bank of North Dakota will take up to 75% of the loans. Our share, if secured by chattel, is limited to $3 million, and then it will be limited to $6 million if real estate. And just to give you some perspective, in 2016, when we did some of the program, the limitations on our loan amounts were half of those. So 1.5 for chattel and 3 for real estate, given the growth in balance sheets and all of that. That's where we landed on limitations for loan amount. The other great part for our share, the 75% of the loan, the interest rate to the borrower will be fixed at 3.75 for the 5-year period. That's facilitated on our balance sheet through interest buy down, which I know Karen has in the motion for us to use up to $30 million in capital to fund that interest buy down on our share of the loan. The lead lender share, we just set a limitation. We don't want our low interest rate in theirs to defeat the purpose. So we do set a cap on the portion that the lead lender will retain. We do allow for up to 2 years of interest only, which is very unique. It's a definitely extended component of the program. It's an option. We'll communicate to the banks to use it as they see fit. It doesn't mean go out and do an extended interest only period if not warranted. I think with that collectively, we'll leave it open up for questions on that one.
I think I should probably cover before questions on it, the financial snapshot around the Farm Financial Building Program. I'm not sure where that's at in your packet.
Yeah, right behind the information sheet on your stability program.
So the way we calculated this is we calculate the opportunity cost. So we're handling all this on Bank of North Dakota's balance sheet. We do expect it. We don't really know what the balances are going to be, but it could be up to $300 million on this program. That interest buy down, there's many ways to handle this. We thought the best way was to handle it through, since we're sitting on such strong capital, is to do a capital transfer essentially to the buy down program to buy down the rate from market rate of say 5.5% down to the 3.75, which we're going to be at on our portion. If you look at the financial impact to the bank, if we measure the opportunity cost, and the opportunity cost comes in if we could put on an asset that's non-farm financial stability, say at market rate, what's that difference between that and this 3.75 we're putting on? That's the opportunity cost that we're giving up. Good news is because we're managed liquidity so well and we're so liquid, we were able to calculate that against just cash holdings or cash and equivalents or short-term securities. So all in, you can see in the top left there, net impact for capital is about 2.3 million. We are asking for approval up to 30 million. We don't necessarily think we'll need that much, but we don't want to have to come back. So 30 million of our capital transferred essentially over to facilitate this buy down. And if you get through all the calculations, the key takeaways in the center there are 30 million, 29.1 million net capital spend, net opportunity cost benefit of 2.3 million, and the net cost of the bank over our 5-year time horizon is about $4.2 million. So we can withstand the financial impact of this interest rate buy down very, very well. That really speaks to the strength of the balance sheet and the income statement and how we continue to sock away capital here at the bank that we can support a program of this size.
It's also why we're here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like we can talk about stablecoin, we can talk about gas capacity, we can talk about a lot of great things that you all are doing and that we're trying to move the ball forward in North Dakota. This is why it's important. This is where the bank becomes an asset for the state that other states don't. The other stuff doesn't matter if we can't do this.
We would agree. This fits right in our mission.
Will the cap be overall then? You talked about the cap that we're applying to the lead lender. So what can the borrower expect?
Blended, it's in the low 4, I think it's 440, 430, 440 blended if we are a 75 split. Because their interest rate today with prime and BNE base at 7 would be 1 over that. So 8% on the 25% share and then 3.75 on the 70%.
And that lead bank, it's up to their decision. So it may not be gated.
Correct. That's worst case scenario.
That's worse.
And also there'll be deals outside of the scope, so we may end up being 50% of the loan, right? So that's going to change the blended rate too. If it's a larger transaction, we can only put 6 million on our share. Maybe they carry 6, it's 50-50 split. Will also influence the blended rate.
By announcing this now gives everybody a chance to start thinking about what they're gonna do in the next 3-4 months. We know we got some unknowns out there because after Congress put forth their bill and it was signed into law, and we have some payments being made from previous years, we'll actually get the details about what's going to be coming forward. So yeah, it may not be as ugly as we're predicting, but at least it'll be a backstop. Good.
I did commit, we worked with a lot of groups pulling this together, great work by our community staff, but also our crop and grain associations, our various grading coalitions, our league banks. I did commit to report this to you for your good decision-making on this. The vast majority, and also legislators, vast majority we talked to do support this size and the timing of a farm financial stability program. But I did commit to those that I spoke with who are somewhat opposed to this and kind of share the opposing side of it. And that is, the thought is if we continue, not just us, but also on a larger scale, continue to bring in programs to carry agriculture through all the tough times, we don't let free market metrics really work itself out. And the consequences is sometimes successions delay because we're keeping older operators in longer by supporting it the way we do, not letting younger operators come in. So there is that side of the argument that I committed I would share with you. We still believe this program is balanced, thoughtful. It does not give away the farm in any way or shape. It is a balanced help for our agricultural industry. And it is a time when the industry is extremely stressed through a lot of no fault of their own. So we believe in this program, but there is that debate that we ran into to a certain extent out there when forming this program.
Well, do you want to go first?
And I'm not trying to cause a row. I just.
No, I reject the premise of the argument. So.
I don't disagree with some of the things that they might be thinking or saying, but they miss a very key element in all this. It's the lead bank. And if the lead bank does not, if they don't have trust in the fact that this debt can be serviced, they won't even come to us. This is to get those in a situation, in a position to get them over the hump because they know they can survive. So yeah, they missed that part of it. There's banks that will never, they'll never bring their borrower here to participate in this program because they can't stand up under the debt they have.
And we've seen that selectiveness
Yeah,
occur.
that is absolutely key. And how we have faith in the program is they're choosing the favors, and we say they must have an operating line for 2026 and show the ability
Yeah.
to repay. They have to show a future and a potential.
So sorry.
Oh, no, I appreciate the mechanics. I would just say the argument that the free market is what is causing farmers stress, I think. Palatable. Inputs aren't up because of the free market alone. Failure to be able to move bushels of corn, wheat, or soybeans isn't because of the free market alone. It's
That's
because
right.
we put a lot of structural, and by we, I mean different government regulatories from the president to Congress, to everybody all the way here. If anybody thinks our North Dakota producers couldn't compete in a true free market, I'd take that bet. Their stressors aren't, I mean, there are going to be individual people in here who have made individual decisions. Tornadoes didn't cause, I mean, there's a reason. And by the way, there's good reasons for this. We don't want the poorest Americans to have to pay $12 for a gallon of milk or $15 for a loaf of bread. But once you put policies in place that exist that way, it's truly the free market. That is an inaccurate representation of why our North Dakota ag producers are in trouble. So it frustrates me. Rant over. I apologize.
No further questions. We can move to green inventory.
So we did have 2 separate motions. Do we want to consider the motion first on this one?
Yeah, that's fine.
And all this behind House 17.
Okay,
So move.
Second.
Discussion. I would say just from, and this goes for both of them, so I'll just say it now. Thank you to the bank. Thank you to everybody doing this. Thank you to everybody who engaged in it. Thank you to the ag commissioner and his team, because our plan was to try and roll this out in December. We're rolling it out in November, and I think that extra month matters a lot. So thanks for everybody for all the hard work they've been ready.
And thanks for the explanations and the materials on these things also. It's extremely helpful to us. Thanks.
Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this next one is, and it really is complementary too. It's a little different from how we've done it before, but we felt it was pertinent to keep as much of the inventory out in a little bit differently structured program than the Farm Financial Stability Refi program. So Kaylin, I'd let you go through the specifics.
As Dawn mentioned, we haven't historically done a specific inventory program. Obviously, the markets are the unknowns within the markets and other quality issues throughout the state. We felt a grain inventory program was valid this year. So we're looking at setting aside up to $100 million for this program. This would be for any farmer or rancher who has remaining grain inventory with a need for working capital. So it may be lack of markets, and maybe prices. There's a few different things that could play into their eligibility onto this one. Again, they must show the ability to repay and have an operating line approved for next year. We will limit the loan proceeds to 75% of the FSA forecasted prices or 90% of contract prices. We're going to set the maturity date to December 1st of 2026. So obviously, if they have opportunity to move their product, they take advantage of that and know it's not a long-term hold, but it is an avenue. The other part of this one too is some of our smaller financial institutions throughout the state have lending limit issues, and so inventory from last year, they may not have the ability to fund a 2026 operating. So this is also a balance sheet tool for the lead lenders to utilize for their producers' benefit. The interest rate on this one will be 75 basis points under prime or base. So with that being 7% today, we would price the loan at 6.25. It's intended to be a strong rate, not necessarily an incentivized rate. Again, we don't want to incentivize them to hold on to the grain longer than needed, but it is a tool to use if needed. Same limitations for the lead lender's interest rate on this one. And I mentioned the maturity date already of December 1 of 2026. There's no limitations on loan amount, just based on the product that they have or commodities in hand. We'll limit the loan amount. Some questions that have come up is, evidence that the commodity is still out there in their bins, which we'll work through on a case-by-case basis, and quality of them. We will seek that case-by-case as needed.
You go out there and actually test the quality. Full deal.
Through our lead banks and farm inspections and all of that, yeah.
That's
The real differentiator here from prior in 2016 was we took even the grain inventory and we restructured into a long-term real estate 25-year loan. This time around, we're giving the banks the options to use this grain inventory program instead of doing that, which overall makes a little bit more financial sense.
No, I like it because it's about choices and options. And they don't have to get tied into a farm financial stability program. And this means they can actually just look at their assets, their inventory, go off from that. As much as I appreciate FSA and what they have, because they have a commodity loan program, the paperwork will kill you.
Mhm.
And you don't need any more stress and headaches. So having this really makes a lot more sense than it ever has before. And it's priced so that we're not incentivizing them to hang on to it and give it back to us later.
Right.
So this works good. I like this. I like it. I move it.
second.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Ms. Ed, for the first one, for the second. Thank you all. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, next order of business is consideration of our annual capital stress test, capital buffer, capital ratio target again. I'll remind you, over a year ago, we did a new capital plan, new capital policy, new dividend approach, working through and with you as our board of directors, the Administrative Commission. At the same time, we evolved our enterprise risk management. At the same time, we evolved our annual capital stress testing. Good news is we ran through our current capital stress testing compared to a year ago. There's really minimal change. We continue to be in a very strong capital position. If you build up from our enterprise risk model, that I covered in the CO update, which is still holding in green. I'll bet a few slight categories moving up, but still overall in green. And when you consider our stress tested scenarios on the second page, we have to get far to the right on that model, which if you look down at what we're stressing, we'd have to drop to an ROA of 1.25. We're running over 2 now. We'd have to have extreme asset growth there up to 12 and 14 billion. And we would have to have deposit growth that really shrunk down, so it would tighten up liquidity. Then we would reach a capital stress level below that 10%, 11% target. So overall, what this is telling us is we still remain in not only a strong capital position, but our capital looks to continue to appear to weather various stress scenarios. I believe we would be seeking approval on this. Rob, did I miss anything on the capital stress analysis?
You'll move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes.
And finally, we have the consideration of the Clean Sustainable Energy Authority memo, which I will turn over to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. You have before you a memo that comes from the Clean Sustainable Energy Authority. They have met in 2 separate meetings, brought forward a recommendation to the Industrial Commission to extend the loan commitments for the Project Tundra through Minn Kota Power Cooperative, and also the gas to liquid plant with Cerro and G. As both of these projects continue to work on their final investment decisions, and Sustainable Energy Authority recommends that you extend the commitment deadline to March 31st of 2026, with both of the projects required to provide a full update to the Clean Sustainable Energy Authority in January of 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call. That's actually interesting. Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Yes.
Governor,
Yes.
Okay, that's the end of our business.
we have housing finance, which will take us right up to noon.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
I don't know what's time sensitive on this. It's not that big question to ask.
At least so.
So we need housing finance and we can hold off till December 17th on public finance.
Make a 1-minute class to get a.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or to.
Mayor just has a quick approval that he needs on a grant, so we do want to, we'll push this.
But I want to make sure Paige, I mean, we're not slowing that down. If we're slowing it down, we're going to sit through this. I used to negotiate plea deals, right? Even prosecutors were nicer than
Our December meeting is in the middle of the month, so it's only 3 weeks away.
Well, I want to be clear. If we're delaying the project, we're not going to do this. But also doesn't mean us hard stuff. But I've learned that I can never be late for a meeting, which is kind of fun. Really? All right.
First up is me with the multifamily application selection. So this is our one time a year, we hold an application round for multifamily financing. As in every application round that we do, we were oversubscribed in all of our programs. And so how it kind of shakes out is we received applications from 23 projects, which was 53 total applications that our development officers had to go through in a month time. And we are funding 7 total of these projects. So it's not great percentage of getting through because we don't have enough funds. And so the low income housing tax credit program is really the driver of what gets funded. And I just want to give you a little math in that the 9% low income housing tax credits for every $100,000 of credits, that equals about $1 million of equity. So to replace that with the housing incentive fund or other programs, you need quite a large sum of dollars. So that's why we're getting as many through as we can, but they're all relying on the federal 9% credits. So what made it through is the rehab or demolition of a 14-1, which is Fargo Housing Authority project that is dilapidated duplexes that will be replaced with a 65 unit complex for general family occupancy. So it's going to be a real good fit for this neighborhood and actually create more units than exist today. The next project that was funded is Harvest Acres in Fargo, which is a 39 unit new construction senior project. In Fargo, Beyond Shelter is developing it. It is not replacing anything, so it's new units. But what is happening with this project that is unique is that the University Drive Manor Apartments, which was a Section 8 property that went defunct in this last summer, the rental assistance that was tied to that project is being transferred to this one. So these units will have rental assistance, which is really important for our senior low-income population. Next project is Buffalo Manor Apartments in Jamestown, which is an exact replica of Harvest Acres. So it's 39 units, new construction senior. The interesting thing about this particular project is, again, we're transferring some Section 8 project-based rental assistance from two projects that opted out in North Dakota, one in Lidgerwood and one in Binford. They just weren't needed in those communities just for lack of vacancy issues. And then also the Jamestown Section 202 hospital in Jamestown has really been struggling financially because it's not a great fit for a senior project. And so the university is interested in purchasing it, and HUD is going to transfer the 202 project-based rental assistance to this. So it's going to be fully subsidized. And then Central at Horizon in Fargo is a 262 new construction general occupancy in Fargo. This is a huge project. I do want to talk about a misprint on my report. It's a $93 million project, not a $52 million. Not sure how I missed that. Thank you so much. This is using 4% tax credits and is expected to have a $47 million bond, multifamily bond, which is the largest bond that we will have issued for multifamily to date. So that's going to be really exciting.
Do you occupancy figures for downtown Fargo? Just driving through it yesterday. It's remarkable to me how many buildings they almost all look exactly like this.
They do. So what I will say to this is that these units are designed to be more affordable than some of the units. And so every project that comes to us has to supply a market study, which has absorption rates. And so it does fit into that. But it is definitely geared toward low-income workforce housing. Grand Forks, Kingsview Apartments in Grand Forks is the next one on our approval list, which is a 45-unit multifamily complex. Coda Commercial is funding it. It's a HIF-only project, which is exciting because that means that it is really a multi-income. There's going to be some market rate in there and some workforce housing. Dakota Commercial is the one who developed University Flats, which is the Hugo's apartments in downtown Grand Forks, which is a HIP project with the Hugo's grocery store underneath. So it's they do a good job. We're really excited for them to do another project with us. And then they are also partnering with MAP Construction to do Brookstone Apartments, which is 160 unit general occupancy in Grand Forks, utilizing also 4% bond, which is to be determined yet, but $5.4 million of HIF is going in to make this one go, which is an exception to our policy. $3 million is typically the maximum HIF that is allowed. We are going to go up to 5.4 just to get this one more thing through because it's utilizing 4% credits, which is a non-competitive tax credit, and then our bond authority. So with that, the last one that made it out of the gate is something that you've already seen before, which is Wild Rose Senior Housing. It's received an additional funding of $50 to maximize their allowance of up to $3 million. So we're going to give them a little bit more money than they had asked for previously because they ran into some cost constraints. So with that, I will just again emphasize I had given you a spreadsheet that included all of the applications and the ones that got approved and the amount of oversubscription. So tax credit was $15 million oversubscribed. That's $150 million of equity of oversubscription in that. So if we had $200 million a HIF, we probably could have gotten all these to go through. That's,
Good work.
thank you.
I wish we had more money to give you to play.
I'm really good at spending money, so I can get that.
My wife would say you and I have that.
It's hard to, the guys that do our ranking and scoring, there are some really tough decisions that have to be made because there isn't a project here that they probably would have said this didn't make sense. So, I should also note, sorry, I know we're pressed for time here, but there was a rugby project and a Gilby project that were actually approved, but Gilby is only 3 units and you have to have 4 units to make a multifamily project. So that one wasn't allowed to be funded. We have suggested they come through our HIF single family to see if they could do for sale. And then the rugby project was withdrawn. So the community decided not to support the project anymore. They just have some concerns about the number of units. So anyway, it was approved, but came back.
Yeah.
I should note that we do have some HIF that didn't go out the door. So we're carrying over about $6 million of HIF. What that actually means though, is if you are in a community of 20,000 and below, we will accept HIF applications from smaller communities on an as-needed basis until next August when we're ready for the next funding round. So this is an opportunity for rural projects to see if they can put something together during this off season and not compete with these larger communities.
Broadcast, communicate that to people that it's available.
That it's available. Well, our allocation plan goes out for public hearing. Our partners are well aware of it, but we probably should do some more accepting applications. It's probably a good idea.
Just curious.
Yep. Do you mind the next one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Also reporting to you is the multifamily bond issuance that did finally close. $9.5 million for Pleasant Valley, which is an acquisition rehab of a 60-unit general occupancy Section 8 project in Dickinson. Constructed between 1978 and 1981 in need of some significant repairs. So it's a good project. There's no vacancy concerns with this, so it's just all around a good deal. No,
Good.
All right, I'm next. We'll get looking at the RFP recommendation. So in October here, we put out bids for our underwriter for the agency. We sent it to 23 different underwriting agencies and we received responses from 15. 8 of those were for senior manager. And based on the review of the committee, the recommendation is that we approve RBC Capital Markets to be our underwriter for a term of 4 years with the option to extend for 1 additional year. Overall, we've worked with RBC Capital Markets for several years. They do a really good job. They've been able to help provide liquidity when needed. They do a really good job with structuring deals and providing analysis that we need when going to market. So overall, we're really happy with them. And our recommendation would be we stick with RBC Capital Markets. If there's
Yep, second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 all right, next thing, we will move on to our 2026 annual series resolution. This is our resolution in order for us to issue $750 million in taxable and tax exempt mortgage revenue bonds long-term and $100 million in short-term mortgage revenue bonds. Overall, last year we did $445 million for 2025. So we leave ourselves a little bit of leeway so that we don't have to come and get additional approval. Basically, this is a one-time approval for the year, so hopefully we don't have to come back. So
So
Second.
discussion. Same thing with all these pro forma. What if we didn't do it?
good question.
I
It
think
would
it's
be
a
in a
terrible
hurry.
question.
Yeah, we need a fast spot. Yeah.
Roll call. Yes.
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 Thank you.
Keep going. All right. And then the final item that I have for you guys is the HUD Form 11702. This form basically just authorizes designated housing finance employees to conduct business with GMA. The agency, each year, we have to do this recertification. So this year we have to remove Dave Floor, our former executive director, and we're adding a few IT staff as well. So if there's no questions on the HUD Form 11702, we're looking for approval on that.
So move. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it for me. Brandon, if you.
The only other thing I had is obviously probably like we saw the governor's executive order and the Interagency Council on Homelessness. Just want to let you know, obviously our agency is going to be chairing that. Jennifer's actually going to chair that. Her work over the last few years dealing with our homeless programs that we've taken over from other agencies. While she's her management and turning those around, I don't see anybody better than chairing that. Obviously, I'll be helping her in the background, kind of coordinate everything more. Trying to circle the wagons, get everybody together. We'll start meeting in January as we get a report to you in the fall.
Appreciate it. I would say one thing is that it now appears that anytime you try and address homelessness, doesn't matter where it's at, you're going to drive more of it into your community. That apparently is now the new metric. So I think people are looking for, I don't think you guys are going to solve it, but I think you have the opportunity to put forward data points on what our solutions, our partial solutions, or doing that moving forward that's going to allow local communities, state government, and everybody to take a real look at it. And we've seen some attempts on it that have not, I mean, I think people are looking for like real world, like what are the factors, what are the things the government can actually do and how we work it forward. But I don't envy the task, but I'm really glad you're doing it because it's going to be really important. And it is, I mean, you can go from COVID to past that and talk to any of the food banks or anything. It is getting worse and it needs to be studied and be practical things in which we can help communities start helping to alleviate at least as much of it as we can. Without having everybody need down as a whole.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Everyone. Caleb is going to be another Wrigley Cobber, the youngest.
Oh, she did. Congrats. Yeah.
Check in. We are going to move to item 9 on the agenda and go over. We will carry over item 8 until the December month. We're good with that? Like, okay. Good.
See you guys.
Hi, Claire.
Oh, yeah. Well, Governor and Commissioners, thank you for the time. Just want to mention that Valley City's IIJA grant project, they found a way to do less money, $337,000 less money. So that opened the opportunity to fund one of our next high scoring projects, which is advanced engineering project for the city of Northwood. So we're asking for your approval to send Northwood's application of $240,917 to DOE for their approval.
So move.
Yeah, second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner?
Yes.
General?
Yes.
Yes.
And I would just mention that the transmission capacity study, to put it into a very simple, we looked at the physics, we looked at the economics, and we looked at congestion. And the end of the story is if we want to grow large loads in North Dakota, we need to build generation and transmission at the same time. We can't bring big, large loads and say we'll build generation 3 years from now. We need to work with these companies to build it in tandem. So
I have several members of Congress and committee staff that we should send out and tell that very thing.
sure. So I've been over the last few months, I've been traveling quite a bit to the National Governors Association Energy Policy Institute, the Midwest Governors NASCIO, and they all point to North Dakota as, and I got an email from MISO yesterday, point to North Dakota as a solution to the energy issues. So you've done well in telling the story, Governor, and representing us. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Let's do the last two.
That's
Happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks for bearing up.
Your motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes, so moved.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes.
And we have the meeting dates for 2026, which I've looked with your schedulers set. And we will work to find a May meeting date, but otherwise it's complete. And
We fixed this, I see we fixed the July 1st one where we would all be gone. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Attorney General,
Yes.
Governor.
Yes. All right. This meeting is adjourned and we will do a quick little thing for the farm bill.